It's 2025. And as someone who has a bachelor's degree in singleness and preaches the don't settle movement, I am going to share my favorite green flag anime couples because we should be treating each other with the utmost care and should not be with people who treat us any less. First off, Mitsuri and Obanai from Demon Slayer. I am an anime only, but Mitsuri's bulk of screen time was in the Swordsmith Village arc and Obanai was only really given moments in the Hashira training arc, which was the most recent one, so I had to do some digging in the manga to provide evidence for my argument. Now, just looking at what they had to say about each other in the manga, it's very obvious that they both care a lot for each other and that they enjoy each other's presence. Obanai straight up just says he loves Mitsuri, so we love. In Mitsuri's backstory we saw that she struggled a lot trying to fit into society's standards of what a woman should be like because she has an atypical hair color, because she eats so much and because she's extremely strong. And when she talks about how much love she's received since joining the Demon Slayer Corps, she mentions Obanai by name, so she makes it very obvious that Obanai has a special place in her heart. As someone who's anime only for this series, I don't know much about Obanai's backstory aside from a tiny snippet I saw on Reddit. However, we can see from the series that he doesn't tend to get along very well with the other members of the Corps and kinda keeps to himself. However, it's very apparent he has a soft spot for Mitsuri and they exchange letters frequently. Also, look at how bro just drops everything as soon as the crow says a letter from Mitsuri arrives. And I don't think this level of jealousy is necessarily a good trait, but the fact that he was jealous of Tanjiro having lunch with her is very cute and I approve. They give off Lady and the Tramp vibes with their very blatant opposites attract energy that the show has given them. Mitsuri is presented as very extrovert and friendly who gets along well with others, while Obanai is more of an introvert who is aloof and struggles with some social interactions. However, despite being polar opposites, they both have backgrounds where they struggled to fit in and were kind of the black sheep type, and their relationship is rooted in mutual understanding and acceptance of each other, the way it should be in my opinion. If you've read the manga, I'm sure you know that there are many other scenes and instances where their relationship is apparent. These two love each other very much and I can't wait for more of their interactions when the movie comes out. 2. Kae and Mutsumi from Kiss Him Not Me. This series is a teensy bit niche, so I'll give everyone a little backstory. So this series is about main character Kae, who was a bigger girl at the start of the series. She then finds out her favorite husbando dies and proceeds to go a week without eating because she's truly devastated. In doing so, she loses a large amount of weight and becomes skinny, earning the gaze of her male peers and becoming a popular member of the school, thus being in a reverse harem. Now the rest of the series is revolved around her figuring out which of the love interests she actually wants to be with now that she has 4 men and 1 woman fawning over her. In the manga, she ends up choosing Mutsumi, which was in my opinion the most correct choice for the straight route, but picking the woman would have also been a correct option. Just none of the other 3 male leads because they suck and are shallow losers. Mutsumi was the only guy in the show that liked Kae when she wasn't skinny, and even when Kae bounced back, or yo-yoed as they say, he didn't have a problem with her being back to her normal self, while the other 3 guys were trying to get her to lose weight again. He was also the only person to still recognize her when she showed up after ditching a week of school and looked completely different. In addition to that, he was the only person to truly accept Kae being an otaku / fujoshi or whatever she is, but the other 3 were only really playing along with her because they were interested in her. I will say, Igarashi came around at some point, but I still think Mutsumi was the best choice. He also never did anything super touchy like his creepy-ass teacher brother and was super respectful of her. Unfortunately, I didn't actually read the manga, so I don't know what happens after they get together, but Kae is always super respectful to others and unjudgmental, and she was super supportive of Mutsumi when he had to face off against his brother. She is an ambitious and driven person who is willing to go above and beyond for her friends. She made costumes for them for the festival and gave it her all to lose weight when she yo-yoed. The 2 of them are also in the same club, so they do have similar interests, and I think they're a great match for each other. 3. Tohru and Kyo from Fruits Basket. From just watching the show, it's extremely obvious that Tohru is a walking green flag, a forest, her own army of little green men. Tohru is a caring person who doesn't judge off first impressions. She gives everyone a chance to explain themselves and accepts people for who they are. Despite everything that Akito did to her, she kept trying to show that she accepted her and that they could be friends. And in doing so, she inspires her friends and the Soma family to be true to themselves. She has so much empathy for others and is willing to get hurt for their sakes. When Kyo transforms into his monster cat form for the first time, she doesn't run away and is eventually able to calm him down. She was even able to change the lives of her two closest friends by showing that she was always going to love them and care for them no matter what. Tohru is able to spread love to those around her easily and make them feel accepted, empowering them to move forward with their lives. Kyo is someone who didn't receive a lot of love from his family. His mother died when he was young and his father blamed him for everything bad that happened in his life. Kyo was also shunned by the Soma family because apparently the cat in particular is very bad. However, after meeting Tohru and being truly accepted by her even in his true form, started to have a lot more respect for her and tried to better understand her feelings, and Tohru even says that he can always tell how she's feeling without asking. Kyo is usually the first to react when someone threatens or insults Tohru. He actually feels guilty when he learns that Tohru loves him too because he doesn't think he deserves her because of how much pain he has brought to other people already. But again, like the last couple, a lot of understanding and acceptance led them to where they are now, and the two of them lead a very happy life together. 4. These two from Tsurezure children. Now these guys are middle schoolers, and usually I don't take middle schooler romance seriously. However, the way these two got together and the way they navigate their seemingly first relationship is very cute. The guy is very communicative and usually asks the girl what's wrong before making assumptions. The girl is really shy, but she does her best to work up the courage to talk about how she feels and what she wants from him in their relationship, like holding hands and stuff. The guy can be a tiny bit stoic, but he understands her perspective and is willing to compromise and try things with her. They got like maybe 15 minutes of screen time in this show, so I don't have too much evidence to go off of, but out of all the couples I saw in this show, they were one of the few established ones where I felt like they were both earnestly trying to do their best for each other. I literally got nothing else to say. They had maybe like 2 whole moments together in the whole show, them getting together and them going on a date in the park and trying out skinship. 5. Satowa and Chika from Kono Oto Tomare. If you're an anime only, I'm sorry that this is your spoiler that they have confirmed feelings for each other. They haven't actually gotten together yet, but they both admitted to liking each other in public, so it's cool. Now they had some hoops to jump through. It was enemies to friends to rivals to lovers. Satowa was honestly kind of a red flag at the beginning of the series. She looked down on others and didn't really treat Chika or Takizo with respect. However, after having to be taken care of by the club, she treats everyone better and is more open to feedback and has more humility. When that old lady sends Akira to try to break up the club, Satowa praised her performance despite the judges and onlookers from that competition stating otherwise. Satowa never listens to groupthink and uses her own judgment to assess others without taking bias. She also risked further exile by going home after being excommunicated to ask for the club to borrow a koto. Also at the Nationals qualifier tournament, or whatever it's called, she made everyone a bridge keychain for good luck. Satowa also accepts Chika for who he is because she has learned to see past the rumors. Now this is where the spoilers are gonna be. Chika always looks out for others, especially in the manga when the incoming first years join. He also defended one of his friends just because he was friends with his bestie. When Satowa misses school one day, Chika is tasked with bringing her the handouts from class only to discover she's sick. He stays the night to make sure she's okay and even makes her soup for when she wakes up. While she's unconscious, he listens to Satowa's most recent competition performance and finally understands her. And by forcing Satowa to actually listen to it, he helps her realize that her message wasn't conveyed at all, helping her regain confidence to lead the club in a rearranged version of her piece. There's so much more in the manga that really cements how good they are for each other, which I'm about to get into, so go to this timestamp to avoid if you don't read the manga, but I highly suggest you do because the author is so talented and it's beautiful and the story is great. Anywho, a lot of what Chika does is really green flag coded. He defended a girl on the train from a pervert touching her. And when Satowa rejoined her family, he spoke up in her defense when other attendees started gossiping about her. And despite his lack of finances, he still showed up to the concert with a flower that Satowa really ended up liking, and she got pressed and hung it up in the entryway of her home. God, I love them so much. Chika is also similar to Kyo, where his name doesn't bring good reputation to anybody and his past eventually caught up to him. He tried to leave the club to protect them, but obviously Satowa wouldn't let him do that, and when a gang member tried to hit Chika with a pipe, she stepped in and swung her bag at him. She then hugged him, putting herself in between Chika and the danger, and confessed she was doing it because she loves him, which he responds to by hugging her back, and when word gets out that she confessed, Chika just confesses back, saving her some embarrassment but equally embarrassing her and everyone else in the club. Now when they go to nationals, they actually have to fly there and Chika has never actually been on a plane before. Satowa noticed his uneasiness and offered her sleeve but Chika instinctively grabbed her hand. When she finished her sentence he was about to remove it but she didn't want him to feel like she was rejecting him so she lets him hold her hand the entire plane ride. And on the day of nationals, Chika presents Satowa with her own bridge charm. He remembered that she didn't have time to make one for herself so he took the liberty of making one for her. And then she wrote his name on hers because he wrote her name on his so they match and god damn it they're so cute. Also he was always trying to make sure she was comfortable around her and he would even catch himself thinking about putting his hands on her and is always trying to keep himself under control. And he asks his friend for advice too because he's unsure. Their relationship has always focused on being there for each other and I love them so much like every time I reread a chapter where their relationship progresses I am filled with indescribable joy. 6. Tsumugu and Chisaki from A Lull in the Sea. Now honestly I wasn't initially going to put this in here because I kinda saw Chisaki as a red flag because she was anti-change and had a death grip on the way things were. But as the series progressed, I realized she was just afraid that if things didn't go the way they should be, that someone would be unhappy or something would go wrong. She thought that being with Tsumugu would mean that she would be the only one of her friends to find happiness, especially since she rejected Kamine. She isn't the greenest flag out there but overall still pretty green. She does a really good job taking care of Tsumugu's grandfather and is always patiently waiting for Tsumugu to return from his research work. She also works in a hospital helping patients and the elderly. Tsumugu is also the most patient person on the freaking planet. Bro waited over 5 years for this girl to realize that she was in love with him and bro let her figure it out on her own. With some light prodding though let's be real. Even when she doubted herself and jumped back into the ocean, he dove in after her despite the risks since she can live underwater and he can't. He was also extremely patient with Kamine because he was aware of his feelings for Chisaki. And he always asked Chisaki for consent when wanting to hug her and whatnot. Bro is the greenest flag. Not to mention that when the Sea Dwellers first started going to school on land he was like the only person to accept them initially. Honestly, this couple didn't get enough screen time during the show and there was a lot left to the imagination but I think they deserve a green flag title. 7. Asuna and Kirito from SAO. Now I am going to acknowledge that Kirito letting a bunch of other girls who have feelings for him stay around him when his girlfriend is around is a little messed up but I do remember that when Sanan kissed him bro was barely conscious so I'll forgive it. Most of what I have to say about them is either from the first season or the very end because season 2 is very much based on their separate adventures and I didn't watch Alicization BC. I didn't like the change in the art style. In season 1, Asuna and Kirito are both lone wolves both trying to survive Aincrad and they teamed up and worked together very well to take down one of the floor bosses. Eventually Asuna gets recruited into the Knights of Favonius Wait No Blood Knights or whatever the heck they're called and she eventually ropes Kirito into it too. Kirito somehow gets into a fight with one of the other members of the guild and almost gets killed but then Asuna comes to save him and then he saves her by losing his hand. I will say the whole marriage arc was a teensy bit weird considering they're both teenagers and Asuna is barely an adult but whatever they just wanted some peace and quiet and it was just a formality. The Yui arc is not relevant to any of my arguments here either especially since she got revived in S2 anyway. But Asuna and Kirito worked together kinda to save everyone from the guy who made them stuck there to begin with. Asuna risked her life for Kirito and then he defeated the bad guy. However some perv wanted to marry Asuna so he trapped her in a different game and then Kirito had to go and save her. Both of them spent season 2 helping someone else and I think that was a really good testament to their characters since they were isolated from their partner. Neither of them abandoned those who need help and used their abilities to help others. I don't know much about Alicization but I know Kirito was literally like, oh my god, when Asuna came into the game Asuna was also willing to stay with Kirito in whatever isolated AI world they were in so he wouldn't be lonely. The two of them share very similar values and opinions and I think make a good couple. Honorable mentions. Sawako and Kazuhaya. I was very disappointed that this couple was not going to be in the original list due to the shenanigans that Kazuhaya pulled in season 3. Spoiler alert, he spends majority of the season avoiding Sawako which leads her to think that he hates her and wants to break up and that he doesn't love her anymore. I will say, prior to season 3 their relationship was very green flag. Kazuhaya stood up for her in class when others were too afraid to sit next to her or even talk to her and she was just someone who tried to be useful to others. People made fun of her for her looks/demeanor but she never resented anyway and treated everyone the same regardless of how poorly they treated her. Ranma and Akane. I love this couple a lot, but I've only seen the remake, which doesn't cover that much, and we see only a little bit of their progress as a couple. I am in the process of watching the original though. Ranma was a little bit of a red flag at the beginning of the show, but over time he began to understand Akane better and genuinely tried to be considerate of her and her feelings. Hirotaka and Narumi from Wotakoi. Another cute couple that I like, but I didn't feel attached enough to mention them here, nor do I remember all of their interactions from the show despite having seen this anime. 8. Akane and Yamada from Yamada-kun LVL 999. Now I have to say that the age gap made me raise an eyebrow at the beginning, but they spent like 99% of the anime not being canon, so I guess I can ignore it, and as the season went on I enjoyed their interactions a lot more. Akane is an incredibly sympathetic and understanding person. She is caring even towards those who wrong her. Even after Runa stands her up and tries to force her out of the guild, she shows compassion and even takes Runa on friendly dates and takes care of her while she and her brother are having an argument. She was also very kind to give Yamada her food despite her lack of financial assets, but he definitely appreciated it. She doesn't rush into her relationship with Yamada since she just got dumped by her ex and was trying to be conscious about how she navigated her relationship with him, fully aware of her feelings for him. I will say at the beginning I thought Yamada was a pretty gray flag because he didn't warn Akane about Runa standing her up despite knowing about it. But as the series went on it was really obvious that he was observant and caring and willing to lend a hand. He helped Akane fix her computer and is always making sure she's okay. Not to mention he's taken care of her twice while she was both hungover and sick. Akane is also the kind of person, as described by Ida aka Rabbit Girl, who wears her heart on her sleeve and doesn't hide who she is. Akane doesn't really hold on to grudges and is the type of person to give someone a second chance without question. She's also super considerate of others, like making sure to not get Yamada or Runa sick when she had a cold because of their entrance exams, and she made sure to tie her hair up because it accidentally got into Yamada's eyes. She's the biggest green flag I've seen in anime in a while. Yamada is super standoffish, but he has his reasons which I will not spoil for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. He is really helpful to his friends, tutoring Runa and helping Akane fix her computer. Yamada is very observant, seeing that after he left Tsubaki he noticed she fell and came back for her. Honestly, this moment made me kinda upset because he was supposed to call Akane so she could confess to him, but whatever, I guess everyone deserves their own shot at their guy. His actions seem strange from an outside perspective, but he does what he feels is humane and keeps the feelings and wants of others in mind, making his actions deliberate and prove that he is a caring and kind individual. He shows up for his friends time and time again, whether it's lending them an umbrella or stopping them from literally dying BC they weren't paying attention to their surroundings. Also, the way that he confessed to Akane or the way that he told her was so cute. It was really refreshing to see a male character be really straightforward with his feelings and be so upfront with what he likes about her. Overall, this couple is constructed of two individuals who have a lot of love for those close to them and don't hesitate to help them out, kinda similar to Asuna and Kirito. They are observant and empathetic and cherish their friendships dearly. Conclusion. The main reason why I found these couples as green flags is because they were very straightforward regarding conflict and their perceptions of each other. I wanted to add a lot more couples to this list, like Mitsumi and Shima from Skip and Loafer, Fern and Start from Frieren, Hiro and Takizo from Kono Oto Tomare, and the other couple from Wotakoi, but I have goldfish brain and some of these couples just aren't canon or have enough screen time. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what other couples you think should have been on this list or any romance anime recommendations you have, and maybe I'll make a red flag one someday. Bye bye.